Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if it is your first time checking us out. Hey, today we're going to talk about some 2023 housing predictions for the Colorado Springs Pikes Peak market. All right, so like I said, today, Francis and I are going to talk to you about what we think is going to happen in 2023 with the housing market here in the El Paso County area. So, man, there's a lot of uncertainty right now, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
You can just feel it, like people in the industry, definitely on the consumer side, a lot of uncertainty. But what would you say, like, number one thing, what's going to be a driving factor that kind of determines what happens this year?
Interest rates.
All about the interest rates, man.
Always, man. And it really depends on what we're going to see with the inflation reports that have been coming out.
Yep.
You know, I think there are kind of three main scenarios that we're going to see in the coming year.
Okay.
That are kind of going to determine just what happens. You know,
Yeah.
Number one, I think if inflation continues to go up, the Fed is going to continue to just hike those interest rates.
Yeah.
And we could see them even go up. We're hovering right around 6.5 right
Yeah.
now. We could see them even hit 8.5%.
That's
by the end of the year.
It's crazy to think about.
I know.
But I think you're spot on because, man, like the Fed has said, at least Mr. Powell he's been very adamant and vocal about we're going to do whatever it takes to curb inflation. Mm-hmm. And it's really kind of kind of a little bit of a one-trick pony, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's rates. So, yeah, I think you're right. Like how that consumer data continues to come out with inflation reports, that's going to be a huge driving factor. So you said number one scenario is, okay, inflation keeps going up, so they keep trying to curb it. So they raise the kind of the base rate, mortgage rates go up. What's another one? Is there a better story? Maybe, hopefully.
Ooh, yes.
I don't like 8.5%.
I know. I think so. So this is kind of my ideal situation here.
Okay.
We've got another one. If you stay tuned to the end of the video, you get to see our last prediction for the housing market for 2023. But this is my ideal situation, and that's if inflation goes down. I think there's no escaping rates continuing to go up right now.
Okay.
But if inflation goes down, I do think that the Fed's going to taper back their rate hikes, and we'll see them hovering right around 7%.
Like that 7%. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So inflation gets kind of under control. It's not as if, and this is a thing that I think I have a lot of folks that I talk to that are wanting to buy here, or the other thing is people that are wanting to sell, but they have such a great rate right now. Mm-hmm. There's no scenario that I foresee where the Fed drops rates drastically anytime soon.
No,
I think we're kind of in this, I'm not saying it's 7%, maybe it's like 5.5 to 6, but I feel like that new norm is going to be around like that 5.5 to 6%, which historically is still really good.
Yeah.
We're just spoiled because of like the 3% rates, which have been just stupid over the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know, people that have bought houses in the 90s, they were paying 17%.
Right, yeah, which we can't even fathom nowadays, right? Yeah.
Not at all.
Okay, so if inflation kind of starts to go down a little bit, then the Fed can ease off the rate hikes, and then kind of mortgage interest rates kind of just even out a little bit. Is that kind of
Okay? That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Like you said, I think that's not a terrible scenario. You know, I mean, we'd all like rates to be back at 3%, but it's just not reality. So as long as they don't keep going up, at least we kind of know where we're at then. Mm-hmm. We got a couple scenarios, rates go up, rates stay about the same. Is there a scenario you can see where rates maybe come down a little bit?
Yeah, I do think there is a scenario where that could happen. And I think we were starting to see some of this towards the end of last year. But in order to, really curb inflation, the Fed just continues to hike rates at an immense rate. I mean, think back in spring when they almost doubled.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So if they hike rates really fast at a rapid rate, it's going to send us into a pretty severe recession. And in order to kind of counterbalance some of that, they're going to drop those rates maybe back down into the 5s.
So kind of that pendulum effect, kind of like going too far one way, and now they're like, oh shoot, man, caused a bad thing we didn't think was going to be that bad. We got to go back the other way now.
Yep.
So it's kind of really one of those things that with those three scenarios, and these aren't just some of these are kind of our little spin on it, but we've read and talked to a lot of folks that kind of, are economists in our local area, and these are kind of what these scenarios they could see happening as well. Mm-hmm. So really the scenario where rates go down, maybe that's good for the housing industry specifically, but it probably means that there's some second, third, fourth order effect things that are happening in the broader economy that probably aren't really a good thing.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I think those three are probably the scenarios that are most like one of those three. But like you said, man, it's all about rates. So what the heck is the Fed going to do? So if rates go down, what do you think that does locally to our housing market here as far as sales, number of sales, and values?
It's going to go up. It's going to increase demand. I mean, if rates go down, the people that were on the sidelines about buying when the rates started to go up are going to get back into the ball game.
Yep.
It's going to drive prices up, which is great for our clients who have already bought in the last couple of years at those crazy, stupid low rates. But it's going to definitely increase competition. For sure.
I think it's basic supply and demand economics. And I know people that have listened to us a lot are probably tired. I sound like a broken record with this, but it truly is. It's just that our nationwide and here in the Pikes Peak area, the inventory levels aren't growing as fast as what they need to support the influx of people that we have. So you have people trying to move to Colorado Springs, which is great, but then builders have kind of hit the pause button on stuff because they weren't really sure what rates were what they were going to do, and then buyer demand went down so much this fall. So builders have kind of hit the pause button, and new builds are the greatest increaser of inventory that you can have. So we don't really have any more inventory to offer people. So yeah, man, if rates do go down, demand's going to go right back up to where maybe not as high as it was in like the peak frenzy, like summer 2020.
Right.
But as soon as rates go down, those, like you said, those buyers on the sideline are going to jump back into the market, and they're going to be trying to purchase, and they're going to try to kind of time it up. They may think like, hey, it's a little trough right now in rates. They might go back up. I got to buy right now. So yeah, I think that's a big takeaway is if rates do come down, that's a good thing from that standpoint. But the downfall is there's going to be a lot more competition with a lot more buyers in the market.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say take advantage of this time right now, even before spring. When we're filming this, it's January right now.
Right.
Which is typically a pretty slow season.
Yeah.
And once spring comes back into play, competition is going to increase nonetheless.
Right. Yeah. The seasonality of it, nothing else. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think right now is the best time to buy in the last several years. Not because of affordability, but just you're not, having to fight tooth and nail over 15 houses to find the one that you want.
Paid over ask price.
Exactly.
No inspections and everything else.
Yeah.
You actually, on the buyer side, you have a little bit more leverage than what you've had. You have a lot more leverage than you've had for the last 2.5 years.
Oh, yeah.
So, for sure.
Absolutely.
So then on the flip side of that, if rates go up, what do you think happens to, let's say, our local market? What do you think happens locally if rates go up even more?
Locally, I mean, they're definitely going to decrease sales. You're going to see home prices starting to go down a little bit too. I will say though, we are pretty lucky here in Colorado Springs that we are a huge military community. So we've got people PCSing. We're not as susceptible to market fluctuation as like the bigger cities like Denver, Dallas. So we are a little bit more stable, but we do still see some fluctuation there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. With just because we have 5 major military installations here, so there's people coming and going all the time, and then also the city's done a lot to really. I can think of 3 kind of big deals that have been signed where companies are moving into the Springs, or they're expanding operations here in the Springs to the tune of like thousands of jobs over the next few years. So I think there's a lot of demand on the workforce side as well for people to come to Colorado Springs. So even if rates do go up, and then just kind of basic economics again says rates are going to go up, demand's probably going to go down a little bit because of affordability, suppresses values a little bit. But I don't really think those values get suppressed too much in the Springs like they might in other places.
Yeah,
so
for sure. I think, even I don't like to talk about 2008 too much. Granted, I was in 8th grade at that point.
Oh, man, I just
wasn't super well read then. But, even in 2008, home prices only went down, like 12%?
Right.
So, I mean, it wasn't a huge drop. So I really think that even when home prices do suppress over the next year, if that is the case, it's going to be very minimal. And you're going to make that money back in the next 3 to 5 years.
I think that's a key thing to think about is like 2008, like I don't like to talk about it either. That was like the worst case scenario, right, that could happen in housing. And nationally, I think it was around like that 12. Of course, there were other markets we know that went down a lot more, but nationally, and I think we were actually less than that here in the Colorado Springs area. But, it's troughs and peaks, and like housing still goes up over time. You got to have a place to live. So, don't try to time things up too much. Don't get too stressed about a rate's going to go up or down. Like Francis said, I really think that, like getting in now when there's less competition and being able to get more of a quote unquote deal, that's going to yield you a better long-term result than what it is kind of trying to time the market up. It just typically doesn't work for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can always, if you can swallow that interest rate, you can always refinance later. Or look, like you've got a budget of $600,000. Look for something less. Look at $500,000. See what you can do to renovate that property, bring that property value up, and refinance, pull money out. I mean, you can do so many things with real estate. It's insane.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to buy just because rates are high.
And I think that's a great what I want to offer everybody is it can be kind of confusing right now trying to figure out like timing of the market. What are rates going to do? What are my financing options? What's the future of Colorado Springs look like? Let me take a minute to say that's what we do day in and day out. That's what our channel is all about, where to eat, work, live, play in Colorado Springs. And we know living is a big part of that. It's a big factor for all of our lives and where we decide to ultimately move for a job. So please take the time. If it's good content, if it's helpful for you, subscribe to the channel. But mainly, just reach out to us. Call, text, email, hit us up in the comments. We want to do anything we can to help you make a good decision in 2023, whichever way you decide to go. We just want to make sure you have the info for that for sure. I think personally that in 2023, I think the number of sales go down, like the number of homes that sell, the number of transactions. I think that goes down. Do you see it going the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just with the way that the economy is looking right now, the jobs market, inflation's high. I definitely think we're going to see sales go down.
Yeah, I don't really foresee a scenario, even if rates, I guess if rates maybe drop way back down, which again, way down is kind of, a little bit subjective, but if rates go down a little bit, the buyer demand will kick up. I think the problem we're going to run into, then it's the other side of the equation, it's the inventory side of it, because builders have kind of stopped right now. So even if there's enough demand to support more sales, I just don't know if we get a lot higher level of sales in 2023, even if something crazy happened on the demand side.
Yeah.
Because our inventory is just it's so limited here in the Colorado Springs area. So I think overall number of sales will probably go down. And then what do you think about, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but how do you think we compare nationally as far as what our prices, our values are going to be like over 2023?
I think we're going to see it go down just a little bit. I don't think we're going to see it go down as like a lot of these other cities that appreciated in such a short period of time.
Right, yeah.
But I do think we're going to see prices go down a little bit. I would say 1% to 3% maybe, but nothing substantial.
Yeah. I think, I think nationally things will go down because when you factor in like the Vegas, the Dallas, or Austin especially, like Phoenix, those markets that just had crazy appreciation, they kind of were the front runners for appreciation. Now they're also the front runners for crazy price reductions right now too. So I don't think we'll be anything like those cities for sure. Nationally, I do think things will kind of suppress a little bit. I think Colorado Springs is, if it does go down, it's like maybe that 1%, but I think we're kind of even Steven. Like that's kind of what I've been telling folks. I really think that if you look year over year, December 22 to December 23, I bet values are going to be about the same. They might kind of like go up a little bit when spring selling season, early summer kind of just, more demand from seasonality. They might kind of dip back down. So I think we'll see this year kind of those normal seasonality trends that you see in the market where we haven't seen those. It's kind of been just straight up no matter the season for a while. So I think overall a big takeaway for me is that it doesn't feel good right now, but we're getting back into a healthy housing market.
Yeah.
Like the last 2 years have been crazy. It's
absolutely crazy.
I don't think it's really been good for anybody except for like if you were already a property owner pre-2020, like pre-COVID, I guess, if you had a property or two or whatever the case was, you've seen some amazing appreciation. But for anybody else, you were trying to buy during that time, it wasn't that great. If you were selling, you were still trying to buy somewhere else probably. So you were winning on one side, but kind of losing on the other side. So I think getting back into a little bit more balanced housing market, it's just what we need to have happen. And like I said, it's not comfortable right now, but in the long run, it's going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Over any 10-year period of time, you're going to see home prices appreciate. That's just how it goes.
The chart goes up, man.
The chart goes up. Like another corny real estate saying is the best time to buy a house was yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
So, give us a call. We'd love to help you out. It's always a good investment.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like it's the time is now, and we don't just say that as like, hey, trying to sell some houses. Like we all actively invest in real estate as well. So I'm trying to find deals to buy right now myself. So truly do believe it. If you guys, like I said, have any questions at all, please don't hesitate. Call, text, email, hit us up in the comments. Whatever we can do to help you out, that's what we're here for.